everyone, thanks for tuning in to Relationship Entertainment TV. I'm your host, Felicia Dorch, with the news you can use and the ish you don't want to miss. So I have missed you guys last week. I wasn't broadcasting, and when I tell you why, you are totally gonna understand. And you're probably gonna feel sorry for me. Keep all the gifts coming, the wine coming, I need something after this last week I've had. And I'm pretty sure once I tell you, everyone's going to be aware because we made national news and it wasn't for a good thing. So as you know, I'm from Texas. I live in Houston. I'm from Houston, Texas. And I don't claim to know everything about Texas. But what I'm about to tell you about was extremely shocking to me. And, most people, when they live in their town or their city, their state, they know things about, the cool restaurants, the best hangouts, the good food, things like that. But this is something that I am really shocked that I was unaware of, okay? Especially as an adult who paid bills. And at this point, at this point, you're probably wondering, oh my God, what is it? Just spill it already. Okay. So if anyone is familiar with Texas, one thing Texas can promise you is bipolar weather, okay? And I'm going to explain to you what that means. Here in Texas, you really don't always have to own a coat. That sounds funny because the weather it fluctuates all over the place. It gets cold, but not the type of cold that you would experience up north or even in Dallas for that matter. Here in Houston, I could say for a number of years, I never owned a coat. I just had like a sweatshirt or maybe a light jacket, a blue jean jacket. Only a few times I can probably count on two hands, maybe two hands, the times that I've ever really, really needed a coat, a big coat. So, the week before last, I broadcast live from, well, not live, but I did a broadcast from New Mexico. I was sharing with everyone about the American heritage and troop that my daughter belongs to, and that we went on a mother-daughter ski trip. Well, then we came back. Now, let's just keep in mind there, it was probably 18 degrees some days, 20 degrees, seriously just cold. Cold. And there I had the whole ski suit, the big coat. I got the Canada Goose coat, the hat and gloves. It was really cold. And coming back, we did notice, we ended up having to change the date of coming back on our trip because we noticed that Houston was going to get some cold weather, maybe some icy roads. Well, if anyone is familiar with Houston, Texas, you have no clue what's going to happen. You could go one day where it's freezing and literally the next day it's 70 to 80 degrees outside. So people tend to not take it very serious. Well, coming out of New Mexico, because we were driving, it's 4 moms and 14 girls, we're driving back, it became extremely impossible to get home. We were literally driving 10 miles an hour, and I'm not exaggerating, because there was so much ice on the road, on the path that we had to take to get back home. We experienced some craziness in the car. All of a sudden, my heat wouldn't work. The defroster wouldn't work. My windshield was frozen. I could not see because, of course, it was raining at the same time, and it was below freezing. So windshield was frozen. Had to pull over. One of the other moms had to go hunt down the AutoZone, find me a portable heater to heat up my windshield so I could drive back home. So just keep in mind of what we went through there and how cold it was. So let's go fast forward. We're here. We're back home. We made it safely. Took us forever. We broke the trip up in half. So we did a longer portion one day and spent the night in one of her homes and got up the next day. And we were supposed to have only 4 hours to get back home. That 4-hour drive, because of the weather coming back to Houston, was so terrible. It took us almost another 8 hours to get home. So we finally get home. And once I get here, the news is going, oh, it's going to be super cold. Prepare. Okay. So while I was gone, my family back here at home was preparing for this cold weather. So again, from Houston, you think, yeah, it'll be cold for that day. That's it. No, we dropped down. I think the lowest temperature we had was maybe 15 or 17, which is totally unheard of for Houston. And not only did we get it for that day, we lasted below zero for almost 4 days straight. Okay, so this is what I want to explain to you about Houston. We are not prepared for such weather. So I ended up not having lights from Monday till Friday. Okay, no lights, no heat, no fireplace. So yes, stupid cold, just crazy cold. And being able to look on my phone and periodically, like we went 36 hours with no lights. Then we got lights for 5 hours and then no lights again. Mind you, along with this, some homes lost water too, busted pipes. You know, one of the things I did learn from living in Tennessee was the minute it gets that cold, anything remotely close to freezing point, you know, you drip your faucets, run your faucets, fill up your bathtubs, just in case the water shut off, you have a way to flush your toilet. So I prepared for all of that. Some people did not. So they were without water and lights. So the 5 hours that we had lights, I turned the heater up as high as it would go. I'm probably one of those that caused the lights to go back out again, but I was trying to warm up my kids. You know, cook something really quickly that they could have. Luckily, I have a gas stove. So anything that I could cook on top of the stove, that's how we were able to eat, unless it was cold goods like sandwiches. And you can only feed children sandwiches for so long before they're over it. And I'm going to be honest with you, a few days I kept my oven going, the stove on, which is very dangerous. Some days we had to go out to the car and turn the car on and try to warm up, try to charge the phones. We slept upstairs in my theater room because there's no windows, and we all bunched up in there, to create body heat. Closed off the door, and thank God we were okay. But what I found out in all of this was that Texas is on a grid by itself. So you have the East grid and you have the West grid. The whole United States is on one or two grids, okay? Texas is alone, right here. That was terrifying information. The help that we could have received from the East or the West, we could not receive because we decided we didn't want federal regulation. So we want to do it ourselves, keep everything compact to Texas, and look what happened. The entire state almost was without power. Houston was without power. My cousin literally just got power yesterday. And all we were told was they're rolling blackouts, but they were not rolling them. We were completely without power for 36 hours the first time, then 5 hours the second time. And then after that, by this time it's Wednesday, they're rolling blackouts. So I started timing it. We would get lights for maybe 2 hours. It'll go off. And it'd be maybe 5 hours before we get lights again. So it kept doing that all through the night. Until Friday, finally, Friday afternoon. No, actually, I apologize. Thursday afternoon, we got lights. Friday was the first full day that we had lights. And this went on for an entire week. My mom ran out of firewood. She has 2 fireplaces, ran out of firewood, ice on the roads, had no way to get her any type of wood or, the type of stress and anxiety that I went through. And then to find out that this could have been prevented if we would have went either west, east or west on the grid and been okay. Then it broke it down even more to find out that El Paso and I believe parts of Beaumont have their own separate grid. And Beaumont, from what I understand, El Paso, from what I understand, the longest they were without lights was 5 to 10 minutes because they did a winterization of their pipes. They made sure that it was protected against extreme cold, extreme wind, extreme flooding, any type of natural disaster, they would be protected. Then I found out that the mayor got on there, Sylvester Turner got on there and said that he put out a bill, a legislative note or whatever you want to call this paper, and to ask them to winterize the electricity or the grid, okay, for lack of better words, the grid. And it was denied. It was denied, guys, okay? So you don't want to protect what's going on because you're okay with us being in a blackout. It's one thing to be in a blackout for a couple of hours, but to be in a blackout for over 36 hours for some families, no power, no heat, no water, no way to do anything. It's just preposterous. I mean, there were so many deaths. One lady, she was in her 80s. She died of hypothermia. A little boy died. A lady and her kids died because they were trying to stay warm in the car. A lady died in a house fire because she kept something on and, it caught the house on fire. So the grandmother and her 3 grandkids died in this fire. There were so many people that lost their lives because of Texas selfishness and not wanting to join the East or the West grid. And that was very upsetting to me because I had to continuously encourage my children that we would be okay. I had to not fall asleep with the fire burning on the stove to make sure we didn't, not wake up the next day. Making them sleep fully dressed, timing them like, okay, you can get in the shower real quick. The lights will be off maybe in 30 minutes. And sure enough, like clockwork, they were out. So it was such a rush and stress and high anxiety levels of trying to get the children fed and calm and entertained and sleeping well and not cold. And, that was a lot to handle in 1 week and to know that it could have been prevented. That was devastating, and on top of that, like I said, some people were without water. Then when we finally get water back, they say, okay, now you have a boil water notice because of parasites in your water. So now my kids can't take a bath. We can't drink the water. We can't go buy water because there's no water. There's literally no water, period. Only way you can get water now is to go to one of the water stations where they're handing it out to you because, they have you meet somewhere and you get some water cases in your car. One good thing about me is I always stock up on water because we drink a lot of water in my family. But then you got to think about, okay, now you got to use a water bottle to brush your teeth. You need water you got to boil the water to try to take a bath. You got, again, adding to the fact that we have no lights, no power, no heat, no way to really cook food unless you can do it on a skillet real quick. And there's only so many things that you can reheat on a skillet. That was my week. My entire week. I felt as though I lived in Alaska. I was pretty sure I was on a reality show. I think it's called Alaskan Woods or something where they decide to voluntarily go live in Alaska and try to make it. That is not me. I'm all for the heat. Winter is actually my favorite time of year, but I like to come in my house and get warm. I'm okay with playing in snow. I've done that when I lived in Tennessee. I did it when I was in New Mexico. But we did come back inside and get warm. And after having that trying time of getting back home with ice and watching so many wrecks, there was like a 35 car pileup in Dallas. There was one in San Antonio. And then watching cars slide past me because they're rushing through, spinning around, and me praying that I can get these 14 girls and 4 moms, including myself, back home. And then come home and deal with this in my own city. That was a lot, guys. I mean, a total lot. So my whole point of this is prepare yourself. Even if you live in a city where you say, oh, that doesn't happen here. After these last 2 years, if 2020 hadn't shown me anything and now 2021 is prepare for anything that could possibly happen anywhere. I used to say that Texas, oh, it don't get cold here. Oh, we don't have that here. No. After the flood from Harvey, the flood from Imelda, dropping down to 13 degrees and having a week with no lights, I'm prepared for everything now. My goal is to go purchase a generator this weekend. I'm going to prepare like I live up north. I'm going to prepare. Maybe I should just move into a houseboat because we never know if it's going to flood here or not. The last flood we had, there was 6 feet of water in some homes. And those in areas that never flooded. So I'm telling you to prepare for the city that you live in. Prepare for everything. Make sure that you stock up on canned goods when it's the winter season, flood season, all these seasons where they kind of tell you to prepare on the news, but you're not really that worried about it. Because I never thought that I would go to the store and see nothing on the shelves, like nothing. People was hoarding food and didn't even have lights. Okay, your food's gonna spoil. So what are you doing? There was no water. Then there was no gas. Then there was no, no non-perishables, just craziness. So I'm not sure where this world is going, but it seems to just be going in disarray at this moment. I'm just asking you to prepare yourself, stay diligent, stay safe, continue to mask up. I'm also waiting to see the numbers and how they're going to increase, because a number of people have to go to warming centers just to get warm, and that's tons of people in one area, and you can only keep your mask on for so long. When you come home, that is the last place you want to keep your mask on. So you're fighting for heat, you go somewhere to get warm, and then you got to sit there and try to keep mask on your children 24 hours a day. I'm pretty sure that was extremely difficult. So let's be in prayer for Houston. Keep Texas on your mind, and reach out to, if you have any Texas family or friends, and see if there's anything you can ship to them, case of water, anything for that matter. But if nothing, just keep them in your prayers. Thank you so much for joining Relationship Entertainment TV. I hope this either educated you, inspired you, or maybe entertained you. I'm Felicia Dortch with the news you can use and the ish you don't want to miss. I'll see you Thursday.